Welcome to G's Backstage Pass. Today, my guest is Yuval Ackerman. Welcome.
Hi.
So, you are known as the ethical email copywriter and a storyteller. Who is Yuval?
That's a very good question that I'm trying to ask myself every single day. No, all jokes aside, I am a storyteller from birth. I'm trying to find different ways to tell stories of human beings
hmm
in different ways. Email is just one way that I'm doing that. Um, I also have other things that I'm doing, but today we're only going to focus on the ethical email parts.
And you have
Um,
a podcast and you're
I
a
do have a
singer as well.
podcast.
Yes.
I am a musician as well. So a lot of different hats, a lot of different hats. But
hmm
yeah, telling stories in all forms, sizes, platforms, ways. That's what I'm all about.
So, what was it like growing up and how has that shaped your life?
Very good question because I think a lot of people assume a lot of things about me. Um, I'm originally from Israel, despite the
hmm
the accent. I know. Um, and growing up there was very nice. I
hmm
grew up in a small town and kind of had this feeling that everyone knew everyone. So it was a really nice feeling, but at the same time, I felt like this is way too small for me. And
Yeah.
I needed to get out there and devour the world. And then, yeah, I mean, there's this thing in Israel when you
hmm
grow up there, when you're raised there, when you're a citizen, that you have to enroll to the army,
hmm
which I did. Girls too, I know.
Yeah.
And my role in the army was a radio journalist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
Wow.
for some obscure reason, don't ask me why, the army holds and finances one of the biggest radio stations in Israel. It's a completely, I would say 80 to 90% civilian, but
Really?
run by, I would say, 80% soldiers. So 18 to 21-year olds. It's very
Mhm.
ridiculous. And I was actually 17 when I just enrolled. I finished high
Mhm.
school. A week later, I was already there.
Wow.
And I learned a lot of things. As a storyteller, I was incredibly interested in knowing how can you tell a story, a news story, in different ways. And one of the key things that I learned during my service for 3 years, by the way,
Mhm.
is that I would still like to be a storyteller, but no way in hell do I want to be a journalist. So then I kind of ditched writing and
Okay.
storytelling for a
Okay.
very long time, 7 years to be precise.
Wow.
And in between, I moved countries and moved
Mhm.
cities. And I'm now based in Berlin for the past 6 years. I did, yeah, a bachelor in sound engineering because, again, the musical hat
Yep.
kind of kicked in for that period of my life. Um, and yeah, I just stayed in Berlin, and somewhere along the way, I just decided to start writing again for a living
Mhm.
and help people telling their own stories.
So do you think that, because you were working at a radio station and really like in the whole communications industry, that that really helps with we're going to talk about really how did you know this is what you wanted to do? And what I'm saying is, like, the fact that you had that radio background helps you to be able to put things into stories into email and have it sound like you're talking to the person instead of just a paste and copy email.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. I think that taught me, and that's one of the first copy lessons that any copywriter out there has been taught is write
hmm
as you speak. And since I was a radio journalist, I had to talk a certain way. Obviously, in a not as talk as I speak per se, but I
hmm
had to learn how to present myself in both a very professional way as well as approachable way as well. So consumable way. So that would
hmm
be one. Another part of it is headlines and learning how to understand what works, what doesn't work.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the biggest lessons that I learned as a journalist is how to craft headlines. And
Mhm.
with now mirroring that with copywriting and the training that I have as a copywriter and strategist, that kind of blends into this very powerful, um, yeah, USP, unique. What is this standing for? I had such a long day. But
Unique selling proposition, unique,
exactly. Thank you.
yes, marketing, yes.
My brain is a mush by now. It's very hot
That's
in here
okay. I'm
today.
still waking up having coffee over here in the States, so
We're all human, you see.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that was a big lesson. But the biggest lesson that I learned as a journalist is to listen to my intuition
Mhm.
better and to do what I'm doing on my own terms and in a way that it aligns with my values. So,
Yeah.
as a journalist in a national radio station that reaches half of the population on every single day,
Yep.
I needed to do a lot of things that I did not agree with.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
whether it's asking an intrusive question or elbowing people left and right just to get to the front row and to shove a microphone in someone's face,
Wow.
or get to very tough places um, right after something happened there.
Oh,
And
wow.
when you send an 18-year-old who was kind of cuddled um, to such places, that really changes how you
Hmm.
see the
Wow.
world, you know? So
Wow.
I really had to take the time after I not graduated, was released,
Mhm.
um, and think, okay, how do I tell stories in a way that aligns with my values, in a way
Mm.
that feels right to me, in a way that feels right to the reader, in a way that just is human and
Yeah.
caring and empathetic,
Yeah.
which I was really very much lacking as a radio journalist.
Wow. I mean, I started out in radio at 16 as well. I kinda understand we had this joke in the industry called the Ron voice. That is like
Hmm.
when you turned on the mic, then the fake voice, "Hey, how you guys doing? Good morning. We got," like all that, and then whenever you turn the mic off, you're back to normal. So I can kind of relate to the fact of like, okay, when you're going on, radio to do the gig, you kind of have to be yourself, but kind of be a different side of yourself. And then, but now with your business, this is all you. This is like, let's talk about your copywriting business, Yuval Ackerman copywriting. And I'd love to know more about the pillars of ethical email marketing.
Ooh, that's a topic that I love talking about so much.
Perfect.
So where would you like me to begin?
Well,
In how
here's
I built my business, where this pillar thing is coming from? Guide me there.
okay. How did you go from knowing that, like, when you knew this is what you wanted to do, and then the first step, you're like, okay, I'm going to build a business based around this, and because you're known as the ethical email copywriter, the pillars of that foundation that you started with.
Right. So I started as a content writer. My fun fact, my business was always since day one, it was called Yuval Ackerman Copywriting. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea what copywriting was. But I started as a content writer. I thought, well, telling stories, content
Mm-hmm.
writing, right? Makes sense. And then I got my first clients, started working with them. And then they kind of asked me to do all kinds of different things that weren't
Mm-hmm.
blog post writing, right? I thought, this is weird, good, but weird, right?
Right.
This it cannot just happen that several of my clients asked me to do other things like video scripts or emails, of course, or
Mm-hmm.
landing pages or stuff like that. It must be something in the universe, in the air, that's
Right.
pushing me or nudging me toward something else. And I was a generalist, not a journalist, a generalist by then.
Generalist, yes.
And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to niche down, to
Mhm,
hone my craft, learn copywriting properly,
mhm,
and just specialize in something. Round about that time, I started seeing more and more email copywriters popping up on my social media,
mhm.
and they painted a very beautiful and accurate picture of this is a good industry and we're nice people. and
Right.
and that kind of drew me into email copywriting specifically, kind of from there. So I kind of approached copywriting knowing that what I would like to do is primarily email copywriting and strategizing.
Mhm,
And the ethical part had to do with, well, circling back to my journalism days. I actually, as my business grew, I found myself being very overwhelmed by how I run my business. And I
mhm.
realized that I cannot continue growing my business as it was without solving some traumas that are, you know, there all the way back to my journalism days. So I carried them
Okay,
with me,
okay.
basically. I approached therapy and I reached out for some help. And
Mhm,
I've been through a very long process. It was worth every cent and every minute. And I realized yet again that I need to do something that aligns with my values.
mhm.
And I've noticed that a lot of people, myself included, are not comfortable with sales,
Right,
even though there's nothing wrong with sales as a
right,
concept. If you have
right.
something good to offer, if you can help someone, yeah, maybe there's money involved, sure, but that's just an exchange.
Right.
And that actually reminds me of something that I heard the other day of, before people are actually paying you money, they're paying you in other ways. They pay attention
Mhm. Ooh, okay.
and they pay with their time.
Yes.
And those cannot be disregarded in any kind of way. So when you're selling,
Mhm.
you're just having an exchange with someone. It could be attention, time, and or money, but
Right.
it's all of it all together, right? It's a big funnel in itself.
Mhm,
And yeah, I realized that doing copywriting or email copywriting with the right approach,
mhm.
without it being sleazy and icky,
Right.
and
Right,
without it
right.
feeling disgusting for you as a reader, but also for me as
Mhm.
as the one who's writing this. That's the only way I could do copywriting or email copywriting and be successful. Period. And live with myself.
Wow.
That's it.
That's brilliant what you say, 'cause it's so true. Everything in life, I've always heard this growing up, everything in life is either time or money. You're either investing time or investing money, losing time, losing money, gaining it. Like, and the fact that what people need to understand is that if you send an email out and that person opens it, they've allotted amount of time to even open that. And this leads to the next part I want to talk about is with everything that's happened with all the iOS updates and Google this and everything, and there's this, I think there's this misperception of that email marketing is just going to go into the promo box or into the spam box or something, like, to stand out. And I'd love to know what you think about that. And also, what are your thoughts on the LinkedIn newsletter? And is it the same as email marketing? What are your thoughts on that as well?
Interesting. So let's keep three things in mind because I just realized that I didn't touch on the ethical pillars. So that's
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Second, we said email, LinkedIn newsletters, and the third one is the privacy issue.
Yes. Perfect.
Let me just start with the pillars real quick.
Okay.
um, of course, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm not doing anything new. I'm just doing things in a different way. And
Mhm.
this is my branding and this is my messaging. So that's a part of my ethical sense of things that I have to put out there. um I think that ethical email marketing is all about three things: consent,
Mhm.
transparency, and
Mhm.
storytelling.
Mm.
I talked about the storytelling part. I can talk about it for hours, but we also don't have all that much time. So I'll just focus on consent and transparency.
Mhm.
Consent starts from how you um, welcome someone to your email list, to your world, and how
Mhm.
you do that in a way that enforces and empowers them, empowers, not enforces, empowers them to make the
Mhm.
right decisions for them. It's
Mhm.
never about you, it's about your reader. And
Mm.
then how do you reinforce consent as this reader is, joining your journey?
Right.
Yeah. And transparency, well, as everything, it depends. For some business owners, transparency would be admitting that they've made a stupid mistake. For some other business owners, it would be sharing what they had for lunch.
Right.
For some other business owners, it would be enough to say, I'm going on vacation. I will not answer emails. And that's
Right.
about it, because transparency means different things to different people. And that's fine. As long as you're aware of it, you're
Mhm.
halfway to the solution already. That's how I see it.
Hmm.
Privacy.
Mhm.
Um, that was a big issue about 2 years ago. And how I see things is that, especially from the ethical standpoint, we are going towards a future where people are extremely cautious and conscientious
Mhm.
of their privacy. And we
Mhm.
need to respect that
Mhm.
because we have social media. Social media is kind of perceived nowadays as something that is for everyone. And for some reason, I wouldn't say it's obscure because I know exactly why, your inbox is still somewhat sacred.
Yep.
So when someone
Yep.
enters your inbox, they have the key to you in a much more direct way.
Hmm.
So when you ask people how would they like to be approached or how would they like to be marketed to, privacy is a big, big issue here.
Mhm.
Now, everyone we're talking about open rates and how it's not going to be accurate. Now, I'm not a deliverability expert, but I can tell you from talking to people in the email world that open rates were never accurate. Not
Right.
really.
Right.
But if anything, I'm looking at the privacy policy changes as an opportunity, like everything basically in
Mhm.
life, where you have to think of, okay, how do I engage and interact with my readers in a deeper way, in a more authentic way, whether it's
Mhm.
clicks that might not be, metrics that we can rely on even in the near future. That might be a thing. But how can we encourage our subscribers to reply to us, which is a big ask, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mental heavy lifting, or
Yeah.
how do we make sure that we start some kind of a conversation, maybe not by a reply, but how do we make sure that this conversation is going and it's not just a one-way stream kind of thing.
Right.
So if anything, I think that the privacy issue that we saw 2 years ago and
Mhm.
is only going to get, some would say, worse and worse. I think it's a wonderful opportunity that we need to consider and see as an opportunity rather than anything else. LinkedIn newsletters. I have a
Mhm.
pickle with this one,
Okay.
to be fully honest with you.
It's Backstage Pass. Just bring the truth.
I don't have my own LinkedIn newsletter. I do have my own newsletter. That's a different
Mhm.
thing. I
Yep.
kind of feel that by having a LinkedIn newsletter, you're yet again relying on a third party service. social media,
Mhm.
social platform
Mhm.
that you do not own, that you can
Right.
be blocked of or banned
Right.
from,
Right.
and that if you're already taking the time to sit down and write everything, you might as well just spend or invest an hour or two in setting up your email list on an email service provider and own the platform instead of letting LinkedIn, as magnificent as the outreach can be. I think you want to curate an audience that really wants to see you, that really wants to host you in their inboxes. And LinkedIn, as much as I love it, don't get me wrong,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm obsessed with LinkedIn. I kind of
Mhm.
feel like the newsletter thing is counterintuitive to what email marketing is all about. But I know that it's rather new, and only
Mhm.
time will tell. So I'm
Yeah.
open to, it being surprising.
I think that's a great point of what you said about, like, you could be blocked or shut off or something. Like over here in the States, I don't know if it happened in Europe, but I mean, it was like a day or maybe day and a half that IG and Facebook went down. And I can say it, it's my show. People lost their shit. I mean, they did not know what to do. And it wasn't, and I don't think from a business owner, co-founder, like point of view, it's like, oh, I can't update people. It's like, I've got like, I don't know, just say 9,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever number it is of potential people that I have contact to. But yet, if this platform goes down, I have zero. And I think that's something that
Exactly.
we've been wrestling with, the whole email marketing thing. And I'm really glad that you're on the show, and we're definitely going to be in contact because and I'm just being honest here because it's Backstage Pass. When I see those emails that look like they were just paste and copy and there's no like personal, and I know they can't be personalized to each person, but I'm
Oh, they
saying like
can.
oh, do tell. Um,
Continue. I did not mean to interrupt you.
no,
Please
no,
do
no.
continue. We'll get to it.
Okay, yeah, we got time. I see these I won't say names, of course, but I see these emails and I just say, okay, it's basically the same email I got from 10 different people. It looks the same, it has the same. It's like they changed a couple words, and to me that's kind of like, I'm just like, okay, well, I just don't even I never report them as spam. I just delete them. But when something jumps out and grabs and is like, hey, this is really, really cool. And it doesn't have to be like that shocking, like get me to open it. It's just something that's really cool. And it's like, wow, okay, yeah. I took my family on vacation and we had a great time. And here's some photos. The first time we ever saw this or whatever it is. Now, as a consumer of the email, I'm like, okay. So that's the thing that I think Sandy and I are wrestling with is, yeah, we have an email list. We have a pretty good size list and newsletter, but we haven't been active with it because we're kind of like, well, we don't want to just be going on there, sell, 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 because on our side as a consumer, we don't read that. So that really leads to the embracing authenticity. And I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well.
I mean, I wrote something about it just the other day, about us loving having a quick win, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, relationships do not work like that. Any kind of a relationship does not work like that. You don't want to be the cringy neighbor who knocks on your neighbor's door and asks for milk, eggs, whatever it is that you need,
Yes.
a cup of
Yes.
flour. You don't want to be that
Yes.
cringy neighbor. You need to say hi to your neighbors on the hallway, or try to engage with them. It's a relationship. It's a two-way stream.
Hmm.
Selling is important, no
Mm-hmm.
doubt, but it's about the how and not about the what, because people who are in your email list, they know they're not stupid, and you
Right.
know that they're not stupid.
Right.
They know that at some point you will try to sell something to them.
Right.
At the same time, they will value the relationship that you're nurturing with them, as if you were, you know any person that you meet, any professional that you meet, on an event. um in terms of, um frequency, or the balance between sales emails to
Mhm.
nurturing emails.
Mhm.
Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it depends.
Right.
I would say that the general rule of thumb that I'm trying to follow, it's at least with my list, but I
Mhm.
know my own audience, is that um, I'm writing a sales email every 4 to 5 weeks, but I
Okay.
do keep the consistency of the value of each and every email,
Right.
obviously, and
Right.
also weekly newsletters. So it's not like I just once a month I just knock on their inbox's door and saying, "Hey, remember me? I'm the cringy neighbor. Please buy from me."
Right.
you know.
Right. This
So
is a
it's a matter
skill.
of
This is a talent.
balance.
It really is.
Yeah. And it's something that everyone can learn. It's just a matter of how much time and energy you're willing to put into this. And that also depends on you as a business owner.
What do you think is the future of email marketing from this point forward?
I'm obviously very biased. I also have this lovely, lovely bubble of people who are also ethical email marketers. Maybe they're
Mhm.
not calling themselves this way, but they are. I have a feeling, as a notorious optimist, that email marketing is going toward a future where it's more relationship building based.
Mhm.
It's more about storytelling rather
Yes.
than the quick sales. And it's
Mhm.
about making yourself stand out for who you are, if you have a personal brand, for who you are, or for what you offer, if you
Hmm.
are an e-com brand, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
And finding new ways all the time to delight and intrigue your customers, because our attention spans are sinking
Yes.
to the toilet.
I
Um,
think social media has a lot to do with that too, of the
God,
15-second scroll. Yeah, continue on about yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
horrendous, right? You must have heard the goldfish analogy, and we have a shorter time concentration span than a goldfish by now, or something like that, which is not entirely correct, but our attention spans are,
Yeah.
it's horrendous. Um, so yeah, I think from the business's standpoint,
Mhm.
email marketing will have to focus more and more on connecting with the audience in a more meaningful way, developing more conversations, making or studying your audience much more deeply, finding finding new ways to tell the story from different angles, and not assuming, never assuming that it's about you, but it's about them. um,
Hmm.
for example, I can give you a practical example from something that I
Yes.
just received the other day. um, there's this brand. I'm not going to mention names, but I love
Okay.
them. It would be a
Okay.
dream of mine to work with them. And they're all about bathroom equipment, let's say.
Okay. Okay.
So, one of the newsletters that they sent quite recently was a curated playlist that they curated, basically, and
Mhm.
branded
Mhm.
on Spotify. So, it's available for everyone. And they said, while you're in the bathroom, here's a playlist.
Wow, that's
And the
brilliant.
playlist itself was also kind of, they picked songs that are appropriate, like subject wise. So poppy songs with like toilet, bathroom, anything relate, so it was like
Right?
a, and that's the thing, we're selling experience, we're not selling products or time or our brains. We're selling an experience, and that's what we need to focus on.
Right. It's like what we talk about with the rockstar media training is that when you are going on an interview or you're standing in front of 500 people and you're presenting a TED talk, talk to one person, just have a conversation with that one person, just like you and I are just having a conversation. We're not focused on how many people are listening or viewing or whatever. Do you think that same type of concept can work with the email? Like you said, it's about building relationships. If you just reach out and talk to, like you're talking to that one person, then
Yeah.
the 10,000 people or whatever on your list, like you said, that ad, that campaign that they put together really just resonated with you because it felt like it was personalized, right?
Yeah. And you
That's
asked that
yeah,
before, and I'm glad that
yeah.
you're asking this again because I did want to talk about this.
Mhm.
There are multiple ways to make it read, not sounds, but read as if someone wrote this email just for you. Let's talk
Wow.
about first and foremost using your first name. And that's such an easy win that I feel like so many brands are still missing out on.
Mhm.
Start an email with saying hi to the person, the person who's reading with their first name, whether it's their real name or their preferred name. I don't know. Start with that, mention their names every once in a while in the conversation as if you would mention their names in a real life conversation.
Right.
But, make it sound as if you're actually talking. I do have some lists that I'm subscribed to where I can see my name repeating itself 8 times
Ooh.
throughout an email. And in some cases, I know that this is how this person speaks. So I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
okay,
Okay.
they have a free pass. With
Okay.
other ones, it's just like it sounds like they're conmen or something. Because there's a very thin line between being personable
Mhm.
and being perceived as sleazy.
Yeah.
There's a very fine line. I would love to dive into that in my own research in the upcoming months. That's
Mhm.
high up there. Um, and so personalization in that sense, that's one. But second, and very importantly, it's all about tagging and segmentation. So when I'm talking about those things, I also remember that some people don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll just try to oversimplify it. So,
Okay. Yes.
assuming that you have an email with
Mhm.
a couple of links that you strategically put in the email body. And
Mhm.
let's say that this link is, or let's talk about one link, right?
Okay.
This link is redirecting you to an online shop.
Okay.
Even if the person never ever bought from you or haven't taken, the extra step to buy from you,
Mhm.
you still need to tell your email service provider that this person is engaged and interested enough in buying from you maybe in the future. So
Mhm.
you need to add an automatic tag in
Okay.
your list that says this person is interested. You name it whatever you want it to be
Right.
named. But you need to divide your email list with as many, let's call them identification
Mhm.
tags as you can to know what your audience is all about. What are they interested in? What makes them tick? What spoke to them? So those kinds of things. And then you can send emails that are relevant to them.
Sure.
I'll give you a real life
Mm.
example yet again.
Yes. Yes.
The other week, I sent an email asking my readers whether or not they would like to have a read time suggestion at the top of the email. You know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about?
Read time. Yeah,
So
explain.
basically, when you open an email, it
Mhm.
tells you, or it has this very, short line time that it would take you to read this email.
Oh, yes, like LinkedIn does with the articles. This is a 2-minute read, 3 minute. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I asked my subscribers, would you like to get this?
Mhm.
Some of them said yes, some of them said no. And I also wrote down below the default that I'm assuming, not that assuming is good, but the default
Right.
that I'm just going to set here is that if you don't click, here's the consequence, which is you will not get a read time suggestion. So I showed
Okay.
them the options, I showed them the consequences. And I
Right.
had a bunch of clicks, and those people who clicked that they want to have a read time suggestion from this point onwards will
Mhm.
have a read time suggestion at the top of every email, and everyone else will not get it.
I see.
But that way, I know that those people who did click will appreciate me managing their expectations in that way.
Interesting.
So I'm catering to them because it's not about me. I mean, me
Right.
figuring out how
Right.
long this email is going to take, I have it already. I'm using an app called Hemingway app
Hemingway.
where
Yes. Yes.
I'm just editing, my copy before I am sending anything, pretty much. One of them, one of the apps that I'm using, and it has a read time suggestion. So I'm just gonna copy and paste. It's another 2 seconds for me, but for them, it's me thinking about them and thinking about their convenience. I don't mind spending another 2 seconds every week to make them happier. In fact, I'm
Right.
happy to do that. So
Right.
why not?
Right, and you asked a question that got a response from them, and it wasn't the usual question like, "Well, should I charge this much for it or should I charge this much for it?" Like the sales, "Well, should we release it
Yeah.
on this day or this day?" You actually asked them a question that they actually care about. Because yeah, you're right. Because when I see those things on LinkedIn and it says, 5-minute read, and then it says 1-minute read, and it does, I think psychologically it goes, "Well, wait a minute, I don't have 5 minutes," even though I might be on LinkedIn for 2 hours. The subconscious is saying, "Well, I don't have 5 minutes to read this article that might change my life." Like,
And some people actually like knowing, and some
yeah.
people will get back to it later, and that's fine. But I did want to touch on something that you said earlier, which is
Hmm.
about an email that sounds or reads as if it's been written for so many people. And
Yes.
one of the first rules of email copywriting is write to one person, because we are all self absorbed to an extent, hopefully, a healthy extent.
Hmm.
And the thing is, when I'm getting an email from anyone, I don't care who else is on this list. So you want to
Right.
convey the same feeling. In fact, I can give you a little behind the scenes glimpse, and tell you that when I'm writing my newsletter every week,
Hmm.
I am picking a random name out of my list,
Okay.
and I'm writing as if with their name in mind. And when I'm reading my copy out loud before I send it to make sure that it sounds like me, I'm saying their name.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so the thing is, nobody cares. And I'm gonna, sing it from the rooftops. No one cares how big your list is if
Right.
you don't convey or give this feeling that your reader, your one reader, is the only person who matters in this world.
Hmm.
You can close your list and go home.
That's a very
That's it.
powerful statement. That really makes a lot of sense because I think that because we look at the list and we're like, okay, well, this many, just for the sake of easy numbers, right? Just to say there's 100 people on the list and 30 people opened it. So that means 70 people didn't open it, right? So
Hmm.
how do we get those 70 people to open it? Well, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. And then you're like, well, maybe the 30 people is really 70, but it didn't show us the stats and yada, yada. And then, but you're saying just right to that one person. Now that
Yeah.
takes it doesn't matter if it's 100, 10,000, 100,000, or 2. One person on your list. It's That's brilliant. That just
Yeah.
light bulb right there. Thank you, Yuval. I'm serious. I know sometimes the simplest things are so complex, and I think in business I know we do this. We put so much into everything has to be like this marketing package strategy, and it's just having a conversation with one person. It makes it so much
Yeah.
easier to do business. And speaking of business, let's talk about what do you look for when you're working with a client?
I think one of the big things that are popping up quite early is the
Mhm,
whole values thing.
mhm,
I have to make sure that, or at least it's very important to me, that the values of whoever I'm working with are aligned with mine. Now, I'm not saying that they have to be identical. because I know that my standards and my values can be quite extreme in terms of consent, transparency, and storytelling, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
What's right for the brands that I'm working with might not be exactly one to one, what I believe in, and that's fine. But we do have to manage the expectations and draw some lines in the sand and say, these are things that we'll not do. For example,
Mhm.
something that I am not um, gelling with is tactics like writing re or forward on subject lines, because that's, in my opinion, a very sleazy tactic to increase open rates. And if you're
Mm.
already luring people to open
Yeah.
an email in the wrong way, you already lost half the battle right there. Because your
Yeah.
credibility, your reputation is like, really? You needed to do that in order for me to open your email? Then I guess your email is not good enough for me to even read it. So that's something that
Yeah.
I'm making sure, that's one of my red lines that
Mhm.
I will not cross. And I'm making it sure with an honest and open conversation with my clients that these are things that I don't gel with,
Right.
but you can't either, because you're building a reputation. And building a reputation takes much longer than ruining a reputation. You can ruin a reputation in one single email. So why would you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm working with new clients, it's making sure that we're managing our expectations and
Mhm.
aligning our values in a way that makes sense for everyone, both businesses, my own and my clients, but most importantly, the values of your readers, their readers, because I'm not writing for myself. I'm not writing for them. I'm
Right.
writing for their audience. That's all I
Right.
care about.
Right. Wow. This is so awesome. So, and thank. I mean, no, this is really like it's good to hear it. Like, like I said, it's backstage pass. This is like, the no fluff zone, I guess you could call it, or whatever. But it's like to hear, like, yeah, you're right. When we're putting out these emails, I think we're so focused on stats. Just like when we do a Instagram post or a LinkedIn post, we're so focused, and I know I have to watch out on this too. So focused on, well, it got this many views, it got this many clicks, it got this and this, and like you're saying, if you just write to that one person and just focus on and being authentic. So now let's talk music. All
Mm.
right. You have a music background. You're a musician. You went to sound and everything and radio. And so let's talk, like, who's your favorite rock star or rock stars?
It's very hard to choose. Um, I think if we're staying on the same topic of working with nice people who
Okay.
would like to, you know, introduce some good change to the world, then I'll have to go with arguably the nicest rock star, the nicest living rock star there is, and that would be Dave Grohl from the Foo
Yes.
Fighters.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I just love the Foo Fighters. I think that his journey, his story is just so interesting, from being, the drummer in the back that no one cared for or about, and going all the way to releasing an album with a pseudonym, and just being a frontman, and just staying very grounded and very human and very, very nice to just everyone, and very humble. I just love it.
Yeah.
And a very good musician, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. There is something about the authenticity that you just feel like, this is the guy you could sit down and have a coffee or have a drink with, and you'd just be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, yeah, it's, oh, wow.
And
So,
not to get
go
into
ahead.
like people pleasing and everything,
Hmm.
but any performer who performs for their audiences with a broken leg for an entire show, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. So how can people work with you? Like, it's like, okay, I get what you're saying. I don't know how to even start I just need to hire you all. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, to work with you?
Well, that goes without saying, but join my list.
Yes.
I am all for introducing some ethical ideas into your email marketing efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You can join at ackermancopywriting.com/subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
It's as easy as that. Um,
Yes.
and I'm on all platforms, honestly. I'm mostly nowadays on LinkedIn, to be honest. But
Mm-hmm.
just send me a message. I don't bite unless there's like really good pasta in front of me. Um, but just send me a message. Let's talk. As one human being to another. Let's have that
Yeah.
conversation and see how we can make it work.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today. I really appreciate it. This was so much fun, so insightful. I learned so much about email marketing, questions I've always wanted to ask, and thank you for just your authenticity.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much for having me and letting me, spread the word about ethical email marketing.
Love it. So, to learn more about Yuval and how she can help your business, go to ackermancopywriting.com and sign up for her list. I'm on her list, and it's true. I do read your emails because there's
I
something
know.
that just stands out. Yeah, of course you do. That's awesome.
Being obsessed with stats, I know. I know. I know.
Perfect. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. All right. Until next time. Cheers.